Jeff, did you hear about what happened in wrestling this week?
Ian, yeah, yeah, I
Oof.
did. I don't know. I got like all week. Was thinking to myself, like, how do we start this? Because this is just an incredible time to be alive in the world of
Mm-hmm.
professional wrestling and fandom. Uh, and now we're here, and I'm just like, yeah, yeah, I did. I watched, and it's such a weird juxtaposition too, because like there's so much good stuff and so much terrible stuff
That's
and so much
true.
fun stuff and so much gross stuff, and it's just like, ah. Like I don't even know where to start. Do we start with like the historic broadcast deal they signed? Do we start with the horrific nature of someone we all thought was, maybe kind of okay? Do we start with the great show they put on and under the shadow of that? Like where to even begin?
Well, I think we should start with Vince McMahon and what his legacy in wrestling is and will forever be.
His legacy in wrestling is and forever will be the last 5 years, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Vince McMahon's history of awfulness
Mhm.
dates back all the way until to like 1984
Oh
or
yeah, yeah.
1982 even. Like
No,
this
Vince is a
isn't
nightmare for sure.
yeah. And so it I read the entire 67 page
As did
lawsuit,
I.
and
As did
it
I.
was disgusting. It was awful. I wished for bad things to happen to
Yep.
Vince McMahon.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually started to notice that I started to get angry.
Hmm.
I'm not sure like at what or whatever, but there was anger within me
Hmm.
that I then tried to rationalize, as happens in life.
As you do.
Um, but I was trying to think like what is it about this that's making me angry? Because I've known that Vince McMahon is
Mhm.
awful for as long as I can remember. I mean,
Yeah. No, no, no.
you
Absolutely.
go all the way back to 1984 and what Vince McMahon may or may not have done to get Jimmy Snuka off of
Hmm.
possible murder charges for the death of his girlfriend Nancy Argentino. And it
Hmm.
goes into the Rita Chatterton story. And like
The
that's what some
ruthlessness that he did everything with.
oh yeah, oh the cutthroat, like I can forgive the cutthroat business
Yeah.
stuff because I get that that's a mentality that some have. I don't agree with it, but I get that that's how some people lead their lives and they don't see
Hmm.
anything wrong with it. But the repeated allegations of sexual abuse, everything, abuse of power,
Yeah.
like everything that he's done over the years, like that's not forgivable. And that's
Hmm.
where the like his legacy now is that he is a dark stain
Hmm.
on the history of professional wrestling for the 40 years that in many ways he took it hostage. Now, a lot of
Hmm.
people grew up, like a lot of people will want to defend Vince McMahon because they love the WWE and they see
Hmm.
Vince McMahon and the WWE as synonymous, but they're not. Many other
Hmm.
people are incredibly important in the history of that company. Vince McMahon is the most
He's
successful promoter in wrestling history, but he did it through ruthless business practices, not having some wrestling genius. I think
mhm.
we've seen over many years that he's been out of touch with the audience for a long time. Um, and so I,
Yeah,
I
and
just
history
think,
is written by the winners, so you're going to
yeah,
get that version of it because they're the only ones left standing. It's kind of how
mhm,
we all look at like WCW now. That legacy was determined by WWE because they literally bought it.
yeah,
Vince's legacy is that for me anyways, and I know it's another controversial topic, but he is now a Chris Benoit figure where it's
yeah,
like, yep, I remember that name once and I remember being able to like that name once and that's it. And that's awful.
mhm.
That's brutal that has to happen, but it does, and it is. Like I honestly now I have uncoupled that connection in my brain. and I now have no affinity for Vince McMahon whatsoever. Even when you heard about rumors or shady things going on, you were kind of like, well, he still gave me this wonderful thing that I love, and you kind
Hmm.
of feel like you need to stand up for him a little bit, even when it's looking pretty bad.
Yeah,
Like let's not forget he got off the steroids thing like on a technicality.
that's right.
You know, so it's it is terrible, and I am glad that TKO immediately divested themselves of him and
Hmm.
forced him to resign and said, and now he's gone. Like before, there was a way for him to worm his way back in. That doesn't happen now.
That's right.
He is gone. He is DUN gone, and I just wish that it didn't have to go like this and it's so disappointing too
Hmm.
because he threw everything away. Like he did this to himself, and as much as you hear those rumblings, you don't want to think of someone like that, even if it is a cartoon person, so to
Yeah,
speak. You
yeah.
know, and you just don't want to think people as humans are capable of that stuff. And like there, you said before that some people might want to defend Vince McMahon and stuff like that, and
Right.
all I can think of is like I'm surprised actually there has not been a groundswell of people defending Vince McMahon because you look at some of the big, awful, celebrity sex crimes that have happened, like Cosby, like
Hmm.
Trump, these kinds of things where there's been a whole swath of people being like, no, they made it up, or no, this didn't happen, that kind of thing. Um, you're not seeing that
I've
with
seen a
Vince,
little bit. I've seen a little bit of it,
like a little trace, which is like
but
well
you're,
within the margin of error, right?
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
much, much lower than like,
Hmm.
yeah, not a
And I think
lot. Yeah.
and you said it before, we sort of knew that Vince was a monster, but we
Yes,
have never had it so explicitly laid at our feet
that's
like
right.
this. And I think that, you know, there's so much in there that even if only a little bit of it happened, it's still pretty bad.
Oh
And
God.
it's
Yeah.
awful. And so it's like, I think in an instant, a good chunk of wrestling fans just went, yeah, okay, enough.
Yeah.
We're done with Vince.
Well, I think they weren't able to, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to think about Rita Chatterton. Oh, that was so
Mhm.
long ago. You don't have to think about
Yeah.
these other, but this was something right in your face from a couple of years ago
Mhm.
when, like, we're talking about a 75, 76-year-old man who did all this,
Yeah.
or is alleged to do all this. But on the topic of like some people wanting to defend him,
Mhm.
um, I think like I was bringing that up more because not that they would defend him vocally, but maybe in their head
Mhm.
they want to think the best of Vince McMahon because they associate WWE with
Mhm.
Vince McMahon. Like the two are interchangeable.
Mhm.
There was one thing that I saw, like, I I just want to like, and it'll happen over the years, but I want to break down this feeling that
Yeah.
Vince McMahon is wrestling and is
Yes.
WWE because he's
And and
he's
and
far
how
from
does that
those
make
things.
you feel? While we break into the psyche, you see.
Well, because some people do have that mentality that everything that we have in wrestling is due to Vince McMahon.
Mhm.
Uh, because Vince has been able to write the story for 40 years. But there was a Deadline article that
Cody still
referred
hasn't
to
finished it though.
there were a Deadline article referred to Vince McMahon as the co-founder of WWE. That's ridiculous. He bought it from his father. It was
Mhm.
around for so long
Mhm.
before Vince McMahon got his hands on it. So like the WWF before Vince McMahon was producing stars like Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund, Superstar Billy Graham was a very important
Mhm.
figure in the history of wrestling. That outside of the box thing was created by WWE before Vince McMahon Jr.
Mhm.
I mean, Vince McMahon Sr. was doing it, obviously, but
Yeah.
so and this idea that Vince took wrestling to heights that it had never been to. That's also not true. Um, Bruno Sammartino and Larry Zbyszko.
Ah,
It's,
beautiful Larry
it's
Zabisco.
not my favorite commentator, but he had an amazing rivalry with Bruno Sammartino. They sold out the big stadium in Chicago where the Bears play or used to. I don't
Soldier
know.
Field.
Soldier Field. They sold it Soldier Field in Chicago. So wrestling was selling out stadiums before
Mhm.
Vince McMahon, and it'll sell out stadiums after Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon didn't take it to heights that had never been taken to, and like so. Vince is not WWE. Vince is not wrestling. Was able to exploit a lot of great artists to make himself a lot of money. He was able to put other wrestling companies out of business in the territory era by buying up their TV deals or just buying the company. Um, he has not had a positive influence on wrestling, even if he has been an important figure in it. He had this industry hostage for 40 years, and we finally ousted him. So in a way, we can almost feel like this is a good day. Wrestling is free from Vince McMahon once again.
Mhm. Yeah, wow, like there's a lot to unpack there. um, you know, I agree, you
Yeah.
know, wholeheartedly when you really start to think about it and break it down. Vince was the one that sort of had a million different outlets to present his product and ways
Mhm.
of doing it that weren't available back then, even though they were selling that stuff out. So, it is very like 2020 hindsighty to be like, yes, this has never been, more popular and stuff like that. It's, and like I'm fed up with it all. We've been on this as a fan. Like, I feel so stupid being like, as a fan of wrestling, let me tell you why this horrific sex crime bums me out.
Well,
It's like,
no, but
but it's
you
like,
know,
you know, I look at wrestling now and I lost myself off my train of thought there.
well,
Um,
I think the important thing is that like WW so Triple H said this at the press conference about WWE like very
mhm,
much just moving forward. It's like the main
mhm,
talking points that we heard in that press conference was Triple H saying um like we just had a great week.
mhm.
We announced this big Netflix deal or whatever. So
Yeah,
like
we haven't even talked about that yet. It's crazy.
yeah, so like kind of saying like look, yes, that's out there. But look at this other stuff that's going on.
Hmm.
We sold out Tropicana Field.
Fifty
Which the
thousand
Tampa
people.
Bay Rays cannot do even in the playoffs. We signed a $5 billion deal with Netflix. The Rock's on our board. So he's
Hmm.
kind of saying like, look, we're very aware Vince McMahon, the dark cloud, I think Cody Rhodes described
Yep.
it
Yep.
of Vince McMahon. But the actual state of our company is tremendous right now.
Yeah.
The stock is still up a little bit from where it
Hmm.
was before they announced the Netflix deal. It obviously went down,
Hmm.
um, in the days that followed. What's with all the news? Um, so 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 there was no negative blowback from the fans at Tropicana Field. So WWE, its product
Hmm.
can really just move on. Internally, they got to do a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that crap never happens again.
Hmm.
But the product and the company can like we wrestling and WWE is going to be able to move on from this. We're
Hmm.
heading into WrestleMania season, and honestly, the product is really hot right now.
Yeah, this is gonna stay alive. After the initial shock wears off or whatever, this will stay alive
Yeah.
if with any developments. But hopefully, for the most part, we can move forward and simply enjoy the thing we're here to enjoy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you say, recognize the fact that it's pretty good right now.
Yeah.
And like it's a total bummer, but we got to do it.
So,
it
I mean, it's like obviously I've brought this up before. I think Triple H,
Mhm,
when he has full creative control of WWE like he does now, the
mhm.
product is amazing. It's great. It's
Yep,
fantastic. Um,
absolutely.
Now I've heard a lot of people say like, all right, WWE is going to have to address this internally. Who
Yep.
knew what when, and things are gonna, heads are gonna have to roll. Like, what if,
Mhm,
we find out Nick Khan, Triple H, we're
mhm.
aware. And I just kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit because
Mhm.
it's a big topic of conversation, and I feel it should be mentioned that somebody leaked this information to the Wall Street Journal.
Mhm.
Someone who had knowledge of the NDAs leaked it to the
Mhm.
media in a way that was, like probably against contractual things that person
Yeah.
has signed. So I do believe that there was a concerted effort within
Mhm.
WWE by who I don't know. Um, but there were definitely people trying to oust Vince McMahon, which is a
Mhm.
very hard thing to do when it's
I-
his company.
As it turns out, yes, it is.
So it had to be done very tactfully, and it was done very tactfully. Um, through like it was done in a way that it wouldn't
Mhm.
expose anyone. It was done, Wall Street Journal is a very reputable company. They would only run that information if they were certain the source that it was coming from. Wait, I'm just trying to remember some of the timing here. Okay, so the Wall Street Journal came out. What
Mhm.
happened a couple weeks before that? Stephanie McMahon left the board uh, abruptly. Said she was going to take a leave of absence. Huh? Remember that?
I have
Okay, and then
inkling of that.
shortly after that, the Wall Street Journal runs that article. Those are just two separate bits of information. I'm just saying, two separate bits of
Hypothetically
information
speaking.
being presented at the same time. Anyone could possibly draw those conclusions. Um, that's all.
Mhm.
That's all. I just food for thought.
Okay. I understand. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you never know. You never
Yeah,
know.
like I
There's a
don't
lot of
know.
interesting things, and we as fans have been watching this happen now for like 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of us are just a little sick of it. You
Yep.
know.
Yep. Time for this to be over. This is like, because it sucks because the last few years have had great wrestling and the worst backstage stuff. Like, just the
Yeah.
worst. That whole CM Punk and Elite stuff, bah, hated it. It's horrible.
Bummer.
Bah. But Vince McMahon sex trafficking, oh my God, that's way worse. Way
It,
worse. I don't want to deal with
much.
any of
Yeah.
those things. But, like Sammy and the Bloodline was cool. I like the
Yeah.
Continental Classic. So the wrestling's good.
The wrestling is good. The wrestling is better than it's ever been, and um, we talked about it briefly. The Netflix deal that they've
Oh,
signed,
yeah. Yeah.
$5 billion for 10 years, five guaranteed, or something like that.
Yeah.
First of all, cha freaking ching! Like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, like that is incredible. And on the other side of it, it is a truly historic deal, not just for wrestling, but like for broadcasting in general.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is going to be Netflix's first real stab at a weekly live program of some kind, assuming that they keep it live. I can't see why they wouldn't. Um, but it's going to change things if it goes over as well as they hope it will.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it could change things big time in terms of how it could be the final nail in the traditional cable sort of thing. Because I don't know about you, but my big reasons for still having a little bit of cable were live sports and wrestling. And as soon as I could
Yeah.
get live sports and wrestling without cable, I got rid of it. So you take away the rest of those live sports, it's looking pretty good to get rid of cable, don't it?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's kind of seen this coming for the last few years, but I don't think people thought it was going to
Mhm.
be as quick as it was.
I
But
also never thought it would be Netflix.
yeah, I didn't think it would be Netflix either.
You
But
know, I
Netflix is perfect. Netflix is
yeah.
fantastic.
In my head,
Netflix,
I was like, what if Warner Brothers owned both AEW and WWE or aired their TV anyways and would insist on like crossovers between the two and stuff? Like, wouldn't that be crazy?
I would love that, but it would require that like the richest person in media be a wrestling fan and want to see that.
Mm.
We're
That only
we
happens
got
once every 50 years.
we only got Tony Khan. His
Yeah,
There was a Forbes article that came out like they're worth like 11 billion or something like that.
they're in the 3 comma club.
Like I I saw this article where Hiroshi Tanahashi wants to buy a building in Japan
Mhm,
for and name it the Inoki Arena that they can perform out of. I was like,
mhm.
why can't like so can Tony Khan just buy that for you? Like, is that like an impulse purchase? Like he basically
Yeah.
bought Ring of Honor as an impulse purchase, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I like
I think he got it out of one of those like claw machines where you put it in, you spin it, and you get a little plastic bubble, and oh, hey, look at that.
it was like if you buy something like a little self-indulgent on Amazon, then you feel guilty after. Like, I wonder if he got that feeling after
And then
Ring
you
of Honor.
make
It's like
trios titles for
probably shouldn't have bought Ring of Honor. But now,
it.
like years later, he's like, well, I can't admit that was a bad move.
He's
So
like,
2 hours of Ring of Honor every
I'm
week, you guys.
gonna see it through, I guess.
I don't admit to mistakes. So,
Somehow this is Jinder Mahal's fault.
but okay, so going back to Netflix, and no, it's not Jinder Mahal's fault. He is going to be the biggest star on Netflix, I
Oh
promise.
yeah, yeah,
But eventually, the plan is for basically Netflix to get everything, right? Like the
yeah.
streaming, everything.
It'll essentially absorb every function of the network as you knew it.
Yeah. um, which I think is great because like Netflix
Yeah.
is the world leader in streaming. So I literally don't think you could get a better partner.
Mhm.
And the amount of money is ridiculous. So if you look like WWE is going to be bringing in like triple the revenue that they were like 10 years ago with the
Mhm.
Netflix deal, but also these site fees that they get for running Backlash in France and
Mhm.
Elimination Chamber in Australia. They're making a lot more money that way too. So
Yep.
WWE, like money wise, which I hear is an important metric for business.
Huge,
Like,
huge.
yeah, money,
Yeah,
money in, less, no, more than money out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. So good on WWE. And it'll have sort of like a trickle down effect.
yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure that that form of economics is not good. But anyway,
It
trickle down
seems like it
effects.
fits in this stage. Yeah.
It seems like it fits here onto AEW because it's just
Hmm.
going to help them in negotiations with other streaming companies. I see. Oh well, Netflix is WWE. What if we
Mhm.
had and AEW is going to HBO Max? But whatever, it'll help. It'll help other wrestling. So,
Yeah.
but more money going into wrestling, and with Triple H, that money will actually be invested into wrestling. It,
Yeah.
it will go into NXT Europe. It'll go into developmental systems. It'll go into
Mhm.
things that help the business as a whole. I'm not sure you would have gotten that under Vince. Would have
No.
gone into, you know, other vanity projects like WWE movies or the other things that he wasted his money
Yeah.
on. Triple H will throw it into wrestling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I'm much better. I'm much happier with that for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
can I kind of give us a bit of a cool down here with a little bit of a wrestling question?
Oh,
And this
sure.
goes all the way back to Raw, like before the Royal Rumble.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I need to ask a question.
Okay.
Is Damian Priest an idiot?
Like in character?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh
Because
it well,
on
yeah,
Raw,
his strategy is poor.
he has been teasing 4 weeks, like 4 months, like cash ins all the time
Mhm.
with his money in the bank briefcase. Seth Rollins is out there by himself with a busted knee. Damian
Oh,
Priest is in the building. How is he not stomping to the ring as soon as the curtain goes up on Raw and cashing in that briefcase?
I actually have an answer to this question.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not a very fun one. It actually makes sense. You cannot cash in your briefcase on someone who's not medically cleared to compete that night. Seth Rollins, with his injury, was not medically cleared to compete that night.
no.
You know,
Well,
there
I guess
are some
he's
holes.
not as stupid as I thought, but
There are some holes in the money in the bank
it just
process to
it was
begin with.
it was the teases that set me off. I'm like, he's always teasing cashing in. Like he should cash in now. And then I'm like, he should cash in now. So yeah, sorry. I got
But
mad at him for something that he didn't do.
That's a case of wrestling leaves these open-ended rules. So like depending on what's going on, they can, do
Yeah.
different reasoning. My favorite example of the bending of reality and wrestling rules was the hardcore title. Well, I guess they
Yeah.
did the 24/7 too. But
Yeah.
um one
The
time,
24/7 title was the hardcore title, comma, just don't hurt yourselves too much.
yeah. But I remember once somebody pinned somebody else for the hardcore title while they were sleeping. I
Yes,
was
that was
like,
Gerald Briscoe was either the one who did it or he was the one sleeping. I can't remember.
yeah, he was definitely involved. Are you familiar with the DDT Iron Man heavy metal weight champion? Nope.
I hope I am now. Like, that
Okay,
is that
so
is a mouthful, sir.
there is a promotion in Japan called DDT.
Mm,
Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi first formed the Golden Lovers there.
okay.
Um, it's like a spoof on American wrestling. Like it's like a comedy promotion.
Okay.
Um, and so they have the Iron Man Heavy Metal Weight Championship, which is defended the same rules as the hardcore title, 24/7. They've been doing this for years and years, like way longer
Uh-huh.
than WWE ever had the hardcore title for. Um, and like a series of objects have also won the title. But my but my personal favorite was when the title won the title. The
Oh
title
God.
belt was the champion.
You have broken my brain.
Well, the thing is, like, the champion was lying on his back, with his shoulders there.
Yeah.
Somebody draped the title over him. Counts to three. Well, now the title is champion.
Wow.
And they say wrestling's
That's
fake.
that's so meta.
I love, like, whenever I get the chance to see DDT, I really enjoy it. There's not
Uh-huh.
a lot of English commentary for it, though.
Well,
So, like, sometimes, there's just
it's
weird stuff's
funny.
happening and you have no idea why. And, you
It's
know,
funny you bring it up. The place that I work,
mhm.
because it's the place that I work and I work there, um, our Employee of the Week award comes in the form of a spinner belt
Oh, nice.
that
Nice.
I have customized with our logo and so on and so forth. So every week
Awesome.
we give the belt to someone, and we just recently decided the committee that controls the
Mhm.
belt to allow objects to be nominated and receive the belt. And the first one was our CEO had this, like, those big water bottles that people carry around.
Yeah, yeah.
He bought one specifically to make fun of our social media manager because she has an even bigger one. And he was talking so much smack, and then it just fell out of his hands and shattered everywhere.
Oh my God,
And it was
fantastic.
wonderful. And we made a beautiful tribute video to it. And then we decided to give the bottle the belt
The
because it had
the
really
this
given it its all that week.
the broken bottle
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or
The belt. And I'm like, is that the NXT UK title? Like, what is that? And then it finally dawned on me, and I was like, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. I thought Jordan Grace was perfect for it too because for the fans that didn't know who she is,
Yeah.
she's so physically, like, she has a lot of presence.
Mhm.
She's huge, got huge muscles. I've been watching Jordan Grace in TNA, well,
Mhm.
Impact, for like the last few years, and she's been knockouts champion. She's been like the biggest deal in the
Mhm.
knockouts division. She competed in like the men's Ultimate X match, so she's awesome. I'm kind of hoping she ends up in WWE because I think she would be really good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, her showing up I thought was a great surprise. If you notice, the surprises this year
Uh-huh.
were all returns, like Liv Morgan coming
Yeah.
back.
There was no like real old people shuffling to the ring to get thrown out in 3 seconds.
Yeah, it was no legends, and it was kind
Mhm.
of like what we were talking about when we did the show before the Rumble. It was like who's out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
could bring back, right? So, but they still had surprises like Jade Cargill,
Yes.
and I liked how Naomi comes back and she's
Mhm.
number 2 in the Rumble because that way she gets her full entrance. It's
Yep.
like she could do the glow thing, right?
Yeah.
So like,
And it was great. It was great to see her back.
oh yeah, it
You
was
know.
great to see her back. It was great to see her have a moment with Jordan Grace in the
Mhm.
ring. and that gave the commentary a chance to kind of talk about TNA wrestling.
Yep.
That is tremendous promotion for TNA
Mhm.
wrestling. Just seeing Jordan Grace and then
Yeah.
going, hey, I'll watch Jordan Grace wrestle again. And
Yeah.
then you know know how to find her. And then on top of that, you find out like, oh, that's where Naomi was for a year. So like
Yep.
that whole thing, I I'm assuming it was a straight up deal. Like you send me your champion and it'll get mentioned on TV. I don't know
Yeah.
that to be the case, but
Yeah.
a great
I
deal.
had seen something they'd reached out to a few other places, but TNA was the one that they really wanted or something like that. But
Yeah,
I,
and they
you know,
wanted Grace in particular.
yeah,
So
well, I think it's fantastic, and what a great way to showcase your product in a way that will stand out. To like
mhm.
I was saying when I was fantasy hook and gender at WrestleMania, like you are going to get millions more people's eyes on your stuff than you ever would before. Like that's amazing in a context of people that are hungry for that stuff. Like it's win-win for everyone, and it even makes WWE look good. Not because they're like helping out other people, which is great, but just
Mhm.
more like it makes them look like even bigger to know there's other leagues below them.
Oh,
It's like
and
the NFL doesn't look as big if you don't know how hard those guys have to work to get there, and the
yeah,
other
yeah, it does.
all the
Yeah.
other places that you could find the game as they're coming up.
Hmm.
So I thought it was really, really cool, and I was so excited when it happened.
Yeah, it's great for TNA. It's great for Jordan Grace, and I think it's great for WWE in that them reaching out and having these partnerships. That's
Hmm.
just going to be beneficial to the product that you see, right?
Hmm.
And we saw like Charlie Dempsey, William Regal's kid, went to All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, well, eventually we'll get some wrestlers in from All Japan. We'll go into WWE. So that sounds very cool. And
In my own
that's
ignorance, I thought that they had released him at first.
oh no.
And I was just like, "Oh, that's a shame. Regal just went back there to work with him."
No, no,
And
he
then
went
I
over
read the
there.
article, and lo and
Yeah.
behold, I was mistaken.
And he did so well. Like the fans started cheering for him. Like Charlie Dempsey. I'm very excited to see what happens with Charlie Dempsey because based on what I saw on that stuff in All Japan, he's good. He's really good.
Mhm.
He's William Regal, but
Yeah,
like
he
Regal was never like super in shape. But Charlie
yeah.
Dempsey is a well-conditioned athlete.
It's
So
true.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But
He's
just
a
on a
man's boy, is what he is. He's from a man's boy, a man's boy. And so you got to assume that he's the boy man, or is the man the boy, or
oh, I
you
wish he
know.
would come out to
I've
that
gone
music.
cross-eyed. I wish everyone would come out to that music. Just change the name, you know? They could even just be doing the same dumb lumberjack shtick.
um, just while we're on TNA, I just want to because so TNA gets all this
Mm,
promotion from the Royal Rumble. Their television right now, they did television at the Palms
yep.
a couple of weeks ago, so that's like a month of TV or something they'll do. And there was 1,600 people in the arena. That looks very major league.
Hmm.
And you talk about all right,
That's not
Raw.
far away from AEW in a lot of cases these days.
It's not far at all. It's maybe like 1,000 off of
Yeah.
like a bad AEW television show. So but okay, so WWE now leaves TV for streaming.
Hmm.
You know, how close is TNA now to going to channels, other streaming services,
Hmm.
and getting game-changing type
Yep.
of money? They've got to be close.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the company that owns them also owns Access TV. So they're free to get a big money deal to move to a big channel
Yeah.
whenever. So,
Or even a small money deal. Even a
yeah.
small money deal to get them on an Amazon Prime, an HBO Max, something like
Yeah.
that. Something where um first of all, those competitors to Netflix are going to be looking for their own kind of product if this goes well, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So they're going to be like, oh, they're making all this money with WWE. What if we brought in the next biggest? And then they're like, oh, it's AEW, or is it TNA, or is it these kinds of
Hmm.
things? And so that shopping has begun, I guarantee you. So to
Yeah.
be exposed the way they were in the light of those kind of changes coming to the industry, I think was invaluable to them. This may propel them sort of beyond AEW a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it bolsters your case a little bit if you're going to an Amazon Prime and you say, "No, we're not WWE, but look, our wrestler was on their show.
Mhm.
They mentioned
Yeah.
us on their they thanked us after. And look at this. Look, our wrestler looked just as good as any of their wrestlers. Our
Hmm.
wrestlers can wrestle for your streaming service or TV channel."
And then the profits will roll right
Step 1,
in.
wrestle.
Women's wrestling.
Step 2, not sure. Step 3, profits.
Profits.
um,
Beautiful, but yeah, yeah.
well,
The women's. Were you happy with the winner of the women's rumble?
yeah, I thought it was going to be either Bailey or Becky Lynch.
Hmm.
I kind of wanted it to be Becky Lynch, but then when Bailey won, I was like, Bailey's like such a workhorse, and
Hmm.
I bet you winning the Royal Rumble is something like very cool for her.
Oh yeah,
And
for
it
sure.
it did seem that way, but I I wonder what happens next with Bailey because it looks like her and Damage Control aren't getting along too
Mhm.
well, and maybe she's gonna go babyface. Maybe they're gonna go babyface. I don't know. So I'm
Mm,
interested to see where the story
yeah.
goes with Bailey and Damage Control.
They made a big deal about her being the only one in Damage Control without a title.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they keep Damage Control together, let her get her title, complete the set as Triple H loves to do
Hmm.
with his groups,
That's what
and
I was thinking of
then
that too.
have them
Triple.
fall
Yeah.
apart. Then have them fall apart from there, or if they fall apart in the lead up to,
Triple H has a
Bailey
chart. It says step 1, the faction wins all the titles.
titles. Step 2,
Step 2,
jealousy. Step
jealousy. Step
3,
3,
profits.
profit.
but but it's true. He loves that picture of a group standing tall with all the gold.
He
You know,
does. It's the horseman. He loved the horseman.
yeah. So I don't know when you pull that trigger with Damage Control, whether you do it pre WrestleMania, where she can go in as a baby face and upset Rhea Ripley, or do you do it afterwards, as in like maybe Damage Control almost costs her or something, and then you have them fall apart from there. I don't know, but
I don't know. And I think they've sort of like, I thought WWE did a good job leading up to the Royal Rumble where they provided multiple possible outcomes. Like maybe you didn't buy too into some of them. Like I didn't think Drew McIntyre was going to win the title, um,
eh,
but they did that in the women's Rumble too because they have this story where Becky Lynch comes out and she confronts Rhea Ripley, says,
yeah,
"I want to win the Royal Rumble, so I challenge you." But Bailey has said, oh, well, of course I'm not challenging Io Sky. I'm going to challenge
yeah.
Rhea Ripley. And it's like, well, why did we have that big segment with Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley then? And why is there all this dissension between Bailey and Io Sky? And I don't know that it's going to switch
Hmm.
uh, at any point, or if we're just kind of being given some red herrings so that it's not so predictable where they go. But it just seemed like
Yeah.
Becky versus Rhea was such a big match that we have to get that at WrestleMania. That if we do get that,
Hmm.
and if we do get that at WrestleMania, it means it's got to be Bailey and Io Sky. So
So yeah, if you
something's
break
got to
up
give,
Damage Control
right?
beforehand, then yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
The other thing is you could make it a triple threat, and then
yeah.
Bailey loses without getting pinned. So she's like, "I didn't really lose, guys," and they're like, "You kind of did. You're out of Damage Control," and stuff like that. So there's a million ways they can take it, but I'm excited to see where they go with it. Like I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
great. So
yeah.
that's just something I'm like, ooh, you know.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with it. Also, I enjoyed Jade Cargill in the Rumble,
Oh, I thought that was a great debut for her.
She tossed out Nia Jax. So
Yeah, I thought that was Nia Jax.
and it was sort of our first look as at Jade Cargill
Hmm.
within like the monster of the beast, like it with the
Yeah, yeah,
big LED boards and stuff. Wow, they had a limited setup
yeah,
or whatever, but
yeah,
um I do think Jade Cargill with the WWE machine behind her
yeah,
is going to be a big deal. And I wonder what they've got in store for her for WrestleMania, right?
yeah.
Like, you know, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can sort of work that one too. I can't remember if there was anyone that she particularly, you know, had a few sideways glances or interactions with during the Rumble match. I thought she
There
came
was
in
a
and did
little bit with
great.
Nia. There was a little bit with Becky.
Mm-hmm.
But like in terms of like, there's some big names who aren't in the women's title picture that for
Mm-hmm.
them to have a big match at WrestleMania, it's got to be like big names, right? And I think
Mm.
Bianca Belair seems like she's
Yeah.
graduated to the stage where it's like, well, she doesn't have the title now, but she can win the title at any point. She's
Yeah.
basically a champion whenever.
Yeah, it's Charlotte Flair syndrome.
Yes, Charlotte Flair. Well, Charlotte
Yeah.
Flair is definitely another one. They never do give her matches without the title, but they could. Uh,
It's
I thought
possible.
I thought Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill was maybe an interesting
That could be
match.
fun. Yeah.
You know?
Hopefully they put Bianca's ponytail in better for that one
Oh,
because
why? What happened with
she
it?
lost a few locks.
Oh, did
Right.
she?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Because I was watching with my daughter. She's like, "What are those?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's fake hair." It's
I
like, why
thought
does she have
Bianca.
fake hair? I'm like,
I
oh.
thought Bianca had a chance to win it.
Yeah, that there was really like Bailey was kind of the one you really hoped they were going to go with, and the one that made the most sense. But like you always were kind of like, well, no, they could pull the trigger on Becky. They could have Jade Cargill come in and win it, like
Yeah.
do the big splash debut or whatever. Um, but no, I thought they did it well, and we mentioned it a little bit before. I liked not seeing a whole bunch of returning legends or comedy bits. Like I
Mhm.
like a comedy return as much as anyone, or even a comedy wrestler like Santino was always great in
Yeah.
the Rumbles, and Chelsea Green was obviously great in this one. Um,
Yes.
so but I thought it was really well balanced. I thought it was a great match, and I like we were into it the whole time. So.
Yeah. No, that was great.
Yeah. And then we had the Fatal Four Way, which was kind of the opposite in that, like, we know that Roman's winning this match. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
how, and it was an entertain. And I think it sort of knew that too.
Yeah. I think
So it
everyone
didn't
going
really
in knew it, right?
like it didn't really try hard to push like big swerves or whatever. It was just kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, we all know where this is headed. Let's pretend we get there in a real fun way, and they did, and I liked
Yeah.
it, and it was fun. Um, Same
Yeah.
with the other one,
In
sorry,
the
go ahead.
Royal Rumble, you didn't need like a marquee Roman Reigns match, right? It's the
Mhm.
Royal Rumble. You
Yeah.
wanted him on the show because he's your biggest star, and
Mhm.
it's your second biggest show or third biggest.
Well, you want
Uh,
to remind people why they want to win the Rumble, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you want that on there, but yeah, you're right. Nobody believed
Mhm.
that Roman anybody but Roman was winning that match, and probably most people guess he was going to pin AJ Styles too. But you
Yeah.
know what? I thought it was interesting. Like they did this, like basically everybody should have beaten Roman,
Yeah.
but like like it's like oh LA Knight hit his half stunner half rock bottom thing and he's gonna pin Roman. Oh, they broke up the pin. Oh, he would have been champion had it not been for, and like everybody else
Yeah.
did that too, so
Everyone was like,
uh,
"Yes, we like this. More of this."
so yeah, like it was
Yeah.
what it needed to be and it was fine.
And you know what? It gave us those great shots of Roman and Seth up in the box watching the Royal Rumble and stuff like that too, which
Mhm.
is great. And I really liked the Kevin Owens Logan Paul match too. Logan
Yeah,
Paul continues to be a very good wrestler for some reason.
Logan Paul gets
like
wrestling. Yeah. He's talking
like
about Logan Paul gets wrestling in the same way that Chelsea Green gets wrestling, right?
yep.
Like
It's like the Miz walked so Logan Paul could run. Like it is so he's doing so well at making people hate him, and he's pulling it off in the ring too. Like that's the thing. Like it was a fun, entertaining match. And yes, I know Kevin Owens could have a good match with a broom closet or whatever, but
That's true.
like it like why not, but I really, really enjoyed the match. I thought it was fun. I thought it had some great moments to it. And like the classic ending too was just like not only was it great, but I can report it was mind blowing to an 8-year-old in 2024 as it was in 1984. The first time I saw that one. So it was really cool, and yeah, I liked that match a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was it's a creative ending, like a Logan Paul. Well, first of all,
So classic, you know.
I love that Logan Paul's finisher is hitting a guy with brass knucks because
Yeah.
he can do all this flippy flying stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm just gonna fucking hit you with brass knucks and pin you. Like that to me is how like I just think he gets it. Oh, and
Yep.
I loved when he wrestled Rey Mysterio, hits Rey Mysterio with brass knucks,
Yeah.
pins him. After the match, goes to shake Rey Mysterio's hand. Mysterio's like, you know what you did? And he goes, nah, beat you fair and square. That was totally on the up and up. Like, you just like I just
Gotta
thought it
go.
was so perfect. Like he knows how to be a heel. Damn.
He
Yeah.
definitely does.
So the ending on this match with Kevin Owens is he goes to Kevin Owens with brass knucks. Kevin Owens steals the brass knucks, hits Logan Paul. Referee sees it and disqualifies the baby face, but it was Logan Paul who was gonna do the cheating. So Kevin Owens looks like he's the better wrestler, but Logan Paul retains his title.
Yeah. And it was a great, perfect, just 2 matches in between the 2 Rumbles.
Yep.
Was perfect.
Yep.
And then you get into the men's Rumble, which I thought this one, I honestly was like, I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah, I thought it came down to Cody and CM Punk, and then it came down to Cody and CM Punk.
Yep.
But
then
but I also had it back in my head. It's like I don't know what they've decided to do with The Rock. Like, like something is happening with The Rock and Roman Reigns. So what?
When he was counting down to 30, I was expecting to hear what someone was smelling like while they were cooking.
Yeah,
I very much was. But honestly, good on them for not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Cody's got to finish the story at WrestleMania. Now, if wrestling was being written just for me, which I wish it was, you like I'd have Cody fail 100 times before he finally won, right? Because to me, that's like the morality play. It sends the message that no matter how many times you get knocked down, you don't give up, you keep trying. So that's perfect. But WWE fans are just not gonna have the patience for that. So one WrestleMania loss is all you're gonna get. But I do feel like he's got to come back and avenge that loss against Roman Reigns because the fans are gonna not like it, right? Like they're gonna say like, oh, they're killing him or whatever. And I do think he would lose steam if he loses again. I don't know if The Rock's involved and it's a triple threat or if he's a special referee. If you remember
I do remember the special referee guests. Yes.
Well, if you remember, like, I can't remember. I think it was so at WrestleMania 27. I think The Rock was the special referee for John Cena versus The Miz. The Miz getting a WrestleMania main event win. And then they do Rock versus Cena main event of WrestleMania each year. So you
once in a lifetime twice. Yes.
Yeah, once in a lifetime twice, and then we're gonna repeat the story 10 years later with Rock and Roman Reigns. So they could be doing something like that now, but like the rumors, the scuttlebutt is that it's WWE's definitely planning on Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. They are planning on a big match between Roman Reigns and The Rock, but nobody knows where. Nobody knows. There are 2 nights of WrestleMania. So
could it be in outer space?
Could be in outer space. But it got me thinking that like WrestleMania, I mean, I'm in outer space right now.
Could be.
I always thought that was the end game for Vince McMahon was to put a show on the moon. Now maybe we could just put Vince on the moon and that would be like, okay, you stay there.
You live there now. Go away.
You live there now. But it got me thinking that like WrestleMania doesn't necessarily need to be the biggest event of the year. If the government of, I don't know, let's let's say the United Kingdom or wherever. If some government wants to give them a shit ton of money to come in
Mhm.
and do a wrestling show, and they say, hey, put The Rock on it or whatever. Like, if
Mhm.
it's going to be a ton of money, 100,000 people there, but it's going to be in June, well, put on your biggest show then.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Rock Roman Reigns at an event that hasn't
Mhm.
even been held before, a first of its kind event.
Maybe it is Rock Roman Reigns the day they debut on Netflix.
Could be that.
You know, like
That's a very possibility. If you, I mean,
or
that
their first
is,
pay per view on Netflix or something. Like
that is like a year down the line. That's actually, damn it. I wonder if it's that. Rock versus Roman Reigns, first night on
Mhm.
Netflix, trying to get like a whole bunch of new Netflix subscribers to come in. That's entirely possible. So that deal starts 2025.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you
Yeah.
announce it. The only thing that is, I think, an interesting bit about something like that is
Mhm.
that there is this 3 month gap between when
Oh yeah.
the TV deals that they have currently run out and the Netflix deal kicks in. There's this 3 month
That's right.
gap, and they have not said what they would be doing um, in those months. So if they put on, a few maybe like super international super show type things
Mm-hmm.
available through traditional pay per view networks or what have you, or on short term deals with a provider here or there, they could build to the debut of WWE on Netflix like they were building to a WrestleMania.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so you'd
I
have
mean
time
that
to promote it if you end that era with the announcement, and then you have that. I think that it could be interesting.
I think another thing that factors in here is The Rock is the owner of a production company. Um,
Hmm.
been moderately successful himself in the entertainment field, as I
I
understand
heard his name bandied about at the water
it.
cooler.
He's now on the board of directors.
Hmm.
What if what if this deal involves The Rock to Netflix in some way, right? Because then all of a sudden the problems of getting The Rock on your wrestling show because of the insurance and he's filming these other shows. If Netflix is controlling both, you don't have that problem anymore. So,
Maybe it'd be hard to say. I don't know how like they could pull off an exclusive contract with The Rock as like an actor or a producer or even his production company,
mhm,
because right now The Rock works, he works as a freelance actor, but he also has the productions that his company puts together.
mhm.
Um, so for there to be like a deal between say $7 Productions and
Yeah.
Netflix as a result of this, um, I just don't see how like one has enough influence on the other to really benefit bundling them together like that. Like if Netflix wanted um, the $7 Productions,
Mhm.
they would just buy it outright.
Yeah. Okay.
They wouldn't like be like, oh, if you sell us WWE at this price and throw in $7, we'll give like
We'll give
because
you a
W
6 episode premiere
yeah,
of
because aside
Young
from the
Rock.
connection of The Rock, like it doesn't
Yeah.
really have any crossover. Um, I think that you know Rock running a production company means that he is going to kiss Netflix's ass because that's
Yeah.
what we do when we run production companies, because they are the leading content holder, producer, and so on and so forth in the
Mhm.
industry. So I mean, it's possible that The Rock is trying to cozy up a little bit more to get some more of that sweet Netflix money, but I think that might be more a caveat of opportunity
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
like, oh, and we can also do this. I think it more be like, oh, and we can do this, or something like that. If there is anything like that,
Mhm.
they like these deals to be clean. They don't want to have these addendums because that just bogs everything down so bad.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, still, like,
Yeah,
it's just WWE being on Netflix.
is massive, and that 3 month gap is going to be interesting, and
Yeah.
just to circle back, the whether it's Cody and The Rock is a special guest, or a something that sets up something down the line for him and Roman, because it could be something as simple as he's the special guest referee and he costs Roman the title, so they have a grudge match at SummerSlam, or in Saudi Arabia or whatever. Like, that's your story's pretty easy to tell from there and make everyone look good too. So it'll be fun to see how they get there, though. It's the world title I'm more concerned about at this point. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. So all right. So as we're or just shortly before we started to sit down to record this, it was announced CM Punk.
Mhm.
He's out with the torn pec. Seth Rollins, of course,
Mhm.
he's what would he do again? Or he's hit
Something to do with
something.
his MCL, I think.
Yeah. So
It's in his knee.
he really, he was just going to kind of gut it through to WrestleMania. So that big CM Punk Seth Rollins match that they had planned,
Mhm.
that's done. That is not
Yep.
happening, and that sucks. When they did a segment, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and I talked about I look at the ratings every week in
Mhm.
these graphs. That CM Punk Seth Rollins segment did the biggest spike. It
Yeah.
was huge. It looked like if it was an EKG or something, you'd be like, did that guy die right there? What did that? That was a heart attack or something. So there was a lot of interest in that. And I thought they could have done so many great
Yep.
promos leading up to that, where Seth Rollins kind of uh, gives the gives sort of the opinion that CM Punk's detractors have of him,
Yeah.
and talk about this bad stuff that he says about WWE, and then now he wants to come back. Like Seth Rollins hitting him with those things,
Yep.
CM Punk, hitting him in ways and kind of making Seth Rollins out to be the representative of the elite in many ways, right? Like
Mhm.
I thought it was going to be a fantastic storyline, but CM
Yeah.
Punk's biggest issue is not his backstage antics, it's the
Well.
ability of his muscles. Well,
Well, yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. This is 44-year-old CM Punk, or
yeah,
however old he is.
it's 44.
Not 34-year-old CM Punk. And
Yeah.
as I can attest, CM Punk and I look exactly alike and are both in the
Yeah.
same kind of shape. And your body just doesn't hold up the same way as it
Yeah.
did 10 years ago, and so something like this happens, and it's like they could have sort of worked around, I think, Seth's injury while
Yeah.
he rehabbed it, because CM Punk could have carried that pretty much on his own if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, but with Seth only at like 50% and CM Punk at 0%, there's no
No.
way it's going to
Nah,
happen.
you
So it's
can't
much,
do it.
honestly, at this point, I think it's much easier to just have Priest walk out on the next Raw, cash in his briefcase, win the title, and then start building him and McIntyre or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That's
Um,
actually exactly what I think they should do.
and yeah,
Yeah. I would
because
put McIntyre and Priest in that position. Um, it's obviously not going to be like the big draw that Punk and Seth Rollins is, but it's logically where
Mhm,
your world title picture would go. Um,
mhm,
Now, Punk and Seth being out, that does open the door for a headlining spot on night one
mhm,
that could possibly go to Becky and Rhea,
yep.
maybe Bailey and Io if that angle
Mhm,
gets hot. So it does open a door,
yep.
and Punk's gonna be back by SummerSlam. So just
Yeah.
do his match with Seth then. So it's too bad though. Like I thought when he got in there, I was like, all right, he got himself in shape. And he looked good at first, but then
He
he
didn't
did
look
not
good
look good.
like
Yeah, like
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
well, I
then
think and this is partially a joke, but also partially true.
mhm.
I think his hair did him no favors. He had
I,
this like weird Chris Jericho from 10 years ago
yeah.
blowout, and it just made him like he breathes a lot heavier now, and it's just with the two, it's just like, oh God, he's Doc Brown, like, whoa.
Yeah, man, shave the head before you go out there, I think.
Jeez.
Um, yeah, well, I was like, man, he looks gassed out there, man. And but obviously he's trying to gut through everything with a
Yeah.
torn tricep.
And
And
credit to him for being able to do
yes,
it, because like,
absolutely. Like
know?
it wasn't this amazing, thing between him and Cody at the end, but it worked. It
Mhm.
got through it, and you probably wouldn't have guessed he was injured, but you could kind of see it. Like
Yeah.
he did visibly grab his arm at one point after he took a DDT from Drew McIntyre,
Mhm.
and you could tell he didn't quite feel on, for the
Yeah.
rest of the match. But god damn, it seems like every time CM Punk comes back, he's out with an injury. So,
Yeah, this happened in AEW,
yeah.
and it just happened again. Like, it's just, I honestly believe it's just the stress of this kind of activity on a 44-year-old that honestly didn't do it for a long time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
it's hard to get
it's
back
that
into that shape.
we're seeing in wrestling and other sports, everyone's like, there's been this increase in torn ACLs. It's like, what
Hmm.
the hell is causing this? And no one can really pinpoint a reason why, you know?
Hmm.
We just saw like Cora Jade now is going in for surgery
Hmm.
with a torn ACL, and it seems like half the NXT locker room has torn ACLs. And the Punk, like, this was he tore. I'm assuming it's a different tricep that he tore.
Mm.
Like,
Might
I
I don't
don't
know
like.
if
Can he
surgically
get
repaired
like his
triceps or
money back from the original surgery if it's the same triceps? Can he be like, buddy, it just friggin' tore again?
I'm pretty sure that doctor was like, you probably should stop wrestling. And he was like, yeah, should stop a lot of things, doc. Like, or like got mad at him on a podcast or something.
Well, that's the thing. Punk, like, well, oh god, the doctor still works there, right? The
Hmm.
doctor who sued him is still the doctor.
Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah.
I don't want to
Well,
mention any
because
names.
that doctor won that case.
He didn't win the case against Punk.
The countersuit? I thought he did.
Oh, nobody
Or it
got
got
any
thrown
money
out
from
or anything.
anybody.
Yeah.
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 So, like, I don't know. If Punk goes to the back, does he? Is that the doctor he sees? So
I'm sure that there are mechanisms in place to prevent that.
that's what I said when he went to AEW and Colt Cabana was also there, and that was definitely not the case. There was nothing in place, and it caused big problems. So
Well, AEW tends to be a little bit forgetful in the things that it promises people sometimes. So
yeah, that's the whole thing. It's a company based on empty promises. Come on in. He'll be the VP.
it'll
But
be
then I'll hire
fan.
these others EVPs. Everybody's an EVP. Everybody's writing the show.
Can somebody tell me what EVP stands for? Please. I've been waiting this whole time.
Oh man. But
Um, so I really liked the fact that Pat McAfee came back,
yeah.
surprising for the Rumble. And I
Yep.
just wanted to know if you had heard if this was true or not. But I had read that because if McAfee came back and he played his music and he came out and everyone was like, "Oh, awesome, Pat McAfee's here."
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing his commentary and it's awesome. I would love it if that was a permanent thing, but we all know that he gets way more money in real sports.
Yes. Yeah.
So but then during the Royal Rumble, all of a sudden his music hit again, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I guess I'm in the Rumble." And he went up
Yeah.
and he did a very funny bit where he walked into the ring and saw Omos in the ring and was just like, "Nah," and then left. Uh, um, but apparently he didn't know he was supposed to do that.
So that's what he said. And in terms of if it's true, hey man, only he knows.
Like, if it is
well,
true, like,
him
oh
and
my
Triple H.
god, like,
Well, okay, for this to be true, I'd probably say like Triple H, whoever is, has become his sort of right hand guys, would have had to have all gotten together and said, "Hey, what would be pretty funny? What if we just played McAfee's music and then we told him through the headset, you're in the Rumble, and we don't give him any heads up on it?" Do I think that there's a realistic chance that happened? 100% yes, I do. So I do believe Pat McAfee when he says that, because when you looked at him, he had no idea what the hell was going on. None.
Yep.
And then he was like, I'm in the Rumble. And it was kind of like I think someone told him in his headset, you're in the
Yeah.
Rumble. And then when he got in, he just did this thing and he climbed in and then
Yeah.
he climbed right out again. And it was kind of funny.
It was
But
really funny. I thought it was great.
yeah. He didn't do it with any type of confidence. He did it like a guy who didn't know what to do. And so that's why I think that, yeah, absolutely. Pat McAfee was this year's biggest surprise in the Rumble, both to the fans and to him. So, yeah,
I just think it's amazing that Pat McAfee is in fact that talented, that he was able to pull off that spot. Like, it timed out perfectly. It was, it was like he really improv'd the hell out of that. Like, I want to shout an occupation and a weird object at him and see what kind of scene he can come up with, but I thought the bit was, and just like, I try to put myself in that position. Like, what do you do? What would you do?
It's just like almost in there, whatever. Pat McAfee probably hasn't wrestled in years at this point. It's like, and whenever he has wrestled, he's wrestled like Adam Cole. He probably knows exactly what to do at any time. So like, I do believe we were seeing his real reactions of general anxiety.
Yeah.
Not sure what to do. And like, my